astronauts are trained to not push the panic button. So to overcome the natural urge to panic, astronauts must know a lot of information. They must cram a lot of information in their heads. It's the basic idea of the more you know, the less you fear. The world is facing a pandemic. Consequently, many individuals, even the most religious, are asking some big questions. Why is all this happening? What's the purpose of suffering? And where is God in a pandemic? This is a question that so many people ask when a natural disaster wipes out hundreds of lives, or when an only child is taken away by, say, a disease like cancer. It's the old age question called the problem of suffering, the mystery of evil, or even, to use a big word, theodicy. You see, plagues highlight the permanent question of the problem of suffering. History, they say, repeats itself. But why the coronavirus? Here is the quick and most honest answer. We do not know. In fact, no explanation is good enough for all the varieties of human pain that exist. I quite agree with the famous theologian and author, the Anglican Bishop N.T. Wright, when he says, Christianity offers no answers about epidemics, and actually, it's not supposed to. What then is our current task in light of the mystery of suffering? It's not philosophies, not arguments, but evangelical hope and empathy. Hope for those who are ill, hope for those who are dying alone, hope for those who are grieving alone, and hope for the many, many people who are fearful. Instead of asking explanations for our present disaster, N.T. Wright correctly says we should recover the biblical tradition of lament. A lament is an expression of solidarity. Solidarity both with our fellow human beings and with God himself, who mourns and weeps for his people. So to people experiencing the sharpest grief, to people contemplating the dying body and the open grave, a response of simple solidarity and lamentation is appropriate. In the face of big questions, we all have a duty to interpret the present moment and not just seek to endure it or escape it. In particular, for Christians and everybody else, there is an opportunity to learn more about God. And so, as the Dominican theologian Father Thomas Wright wrote, what does it mean that God permitted or willed the temporary conditions in which our elite lifestyle of international travel is grounded? Our consumption is cut to a minimum. Our days are occupied with basic responsibilities toward our families and our immediate communities. Our resources and our economic hopes are reduced, and we are made more dependent upon one another. What does it mean that our nation states suddenly seem less potent and our armies across the world are infected by an invincible contagion they cannot eradicate, and that the most technologically advanced countries face the humility of their limitations? We might think that none of this tells us anything about ourselves or about God's compassion and justice. But if we simply seek to pass through all of this in hasty expectation of a return to normal, perhaps we are missing the fundamental point of the exercise. Asking these questions does not imply crude or simple answers, or answers that any human being can hold with certainty. But we should seek after these questions. Why so? because we all carry the burden of communicating hope, basic human friendship, and compassion to a world that is darkened by a plague. And we do this with our words, with our gestures, both individually and collectively. Thank you.